Bengaluru's notorious traffic congestion was a major focus in the 2024-25 Karnataka Budget, with big-ticket projects proposed to ease the gridlock. But there's a catch: no budget allocation was made for these ambitious plans. Join us as we analyze the budget's promises and explore whether they can truly transform the city's traffic situation, or if they will just be another set of plans that never see the light of day. Watch what Srinivas Alavalli view on this.
A 250-meter high skydeck, 17 elevated signal-free corridors, 73 kilometers of the Bengaluru business corridor, twin tube tunnels and much more. There is no end to the flurry of ambitious civic infrastructure projects being proposed in Bengaluru. While the projects are aimed at easing the chaos in the IT city and taking us closer to the shiny vision of brand Bengaluru, how viable are these plans really? What is actually the need of the hour in Bengaluru? Namaskara, I'm Nalme Nachiyar. Welcome to Decode Karnataka. Decongestion and management of Bengaluru's infamous traffic were among the key focus areas of the 2024-25 Karnataka Budget. While the budget suggested the implementation of big-ticket projects for this very purpose, it did not, however, propose any allocations for them. While the ideas are futuristic and ambitious, citizens have seen many such infrastructure and mobility projects be prolonged endlessly or never see the light of day due to perennial issues of funding, land acquisition, and poor planning. The city is dotted with stalled flyovers, underpasses, and signal-free corridors that have only done more harm than good by increasing bottlenecks and inconveniencing commuters. The Hindu even ran a series called Stuck in the Middle with ground reports from many such choke points in Bengaluru. If you haven't read it yet, the link is in the description below. So, given the history of haphazard planning and implementation, does the sprawling metropolis need more such projects to add to its woes? To discuss this, we have with us today Srinivas Alavalli, who works on sustainable cities and transport with WRI India. Hi sir, welcome to the show. As we all know that you are very active in the Bengaluru circles demanding better transport and mobility for the citizens. Your work deals with making cities sustainable and integrated transport and mobility. So, the government, the recent government, the Congress government, and even before that, there have been several projects that were announced. It includes the elevated signal-free corridors, underpasses, twin tunnels, the peripheral ring road, which has now been renamed as the Bengaluru corridor. So all of this and the 250-meter high skydeck. So from a sustainability point of view, how feasible, viable do you think these projects are? In the sense, do we really need it? And if you say some are necessary, then can they be, implemented properly?
We have to look at the overall picture of Bengaluru in this regard, right? From the mobility perspective and from the city development perspective. The city has long been suffering due to lack of public transport. Comparatively, if you look at it, Mumbai, Chennai, many of Indian cities had a local train system for more than 100 years. Mumbai has for 140 years, right? And a lot of travel in Mumbai happens through that. Same with Chennai, multiple lines of trains and now metro and all of that. So public transport is part of the culture of those cities, the mega cities. Now Bengaluru is a mega city too. It's probably bigger than Chennai right now and pretty close to Mumbai. Mumbai is still bigger. But why is it that Bengaluru is stuck in traffic? We have to ask ourselves that question. It's precisely for the reason that we prioritize things like flyovers. We prioritize things like ring roads and all of that. Nothing wrong with them, but you must first prioritize the mass public transport. Urban mobility works on a principle called move people, not vehicles. Because the point of mobility is to get people from point A to point B. How they get is not very important. The more efficient method of getting there is better for the city. For example, a bus can carry 70 people. A metro train can carry 2,000 people in one go, right? How many cars will be able to do that, right? So therefore, any city, any big city should prioritize public transport. This is precisely what Bengaluru has missed the boat on, which is why we are suffering today. We are world's second most congested city, right? We are very famous for IT, equally famous for traffic congestion, right? But I would say we are on the right track now. Bengaluru city is well on its way of becoming one of the best cities for public transport.
Okay.
You know how what they say, it becomes really dark before the light comes.
Yeah.
We are in that phase. We are actually getting the light. Last year, Nalme, I must tell you that both metro and bus have recorded 30% more ridership than the previous year. That's because the metro started going to Whitefield, which is the IT corridor, and bus has started the Shakti scheme, both of which led to lakhs of people using bus and metro. That's a huge win for the city from the point of view of sustainable public transport, right? Now, if you look at the roadmap of what's happening with metro and suburban, if you can think of the evolution of metro in Bengaluru. In 2016, we had a very small network of metro. 2019, little better. 2021, some more. 23, everything changed. We got the purple line going to Whitefield. 24, which is this year, we are going to see yellow line with electronic city. Guess what? That's another IT corridor. 26, we will see the blue line, which goes to mother of all IT corridors, which is the outer ring road, where 1.2 million people work, and many of them own cars because they're high salaried jobs. This is where the traffic congestion of Bengaluru comes, and metro is going to reach them. And the good news continues. In 2029, as you reported recently, that phase 3 has been approved. There's a silver line, there's an orange line. All colors are filling Bengaluru along with suburban train, which is another thing we fought for, Chukubuku Beku, for a long time. Finally, that dream, the local trains of Mumbai and Chennai, is coming to Bengaluru. So the very first line is supposed to come in December 2025, let's say 26. By 2029, Nalme, I'm not kidding you, we'll get 220 kilometers of metro, and with 166 stations, we get 148 kilometers of suburban with 64 stations. So that's 368 kilometers of metro plus suburban train and 230 stations. That means everyone is going to have a station within 2 kilometers to their home or office. This is a big deal. Consider it delays here and there. It's still on the right track. So now, given that, should you be building flyovers, elevated corridors, or should you be building tunnels? As per the transport science, mobility science, anytime you build more road network, you may get an instant relief that you can go faster, like the double-decker flyover that we have now. But after a few months or even weeks, the more traffic comes on that. That's called induced demand. So therefore, more road space attracts even more vehicles. In this city, one thing we need less of is vehicles and population, of course, but both, right? But if you keep building more road network, you get more vehicles. So if we had an organization like BMLTA, which we are supposed to have, it is supposed to look at the mobility from a comprehensive planning perspective and say, here is metro, here is suburban, where should I build a tunnel? Where should I build a flyover? That's how we want that infrastructure to happen. Along with all of these public transport, I must tell you that the BBMP is working on high density corridors, the roads, improving walkability. We're working on a program called Suraksha 75, improving junction safety. Then there is last mile to walkability to metro. All of these road interventions are happening. You mentioned PRR, STRR, excellent roads because you need the traffic to go around and not enter the city for the goods vehicles and all of that. So I would say our mobility outlook is looking fantastic. Don't bring in some projects like tunnels and elevated corridors at this point of time. They might be useful, but not right now.
You mentioned that the traffic congestion is what we are known for. The city has had this reputation for bad planning and prioritization, especially as you've mentioned. And a lot of the times, we just mentioned that we ran the series, we focused on some of these flyovers that were proposed, never got done, and it's only caused more problems. So what explains this lack of focus, historically speaking? I mean, not just in the last few years, but overall.
We are a victim of our own success, I would say. Bengaluru city has grown so much that it's very difficult to manage this growth. Given that, we are in the 21st century, but our governance models are still in the 19th century, right?
Okay.
The urban governance of Bengaluru hasn't changed in 50 years. We are in the same model. We don't even have a mayor now for 4 years,
Yeah.
no council.
Yeah.
Even if you had a mayor, he or she would not have any control over the bus or metro or suburban. So who is in charge? Nobody really. Now we have a Bengaluru development minister, but he is at a state government level. So there is no political accountability for lack of planning. If Bengaluru has no good solution for traffic congestion, nobody pays the price at the ballot box. And the political economy of our state, in our country, is such that there is so much money spent on the elections. So the need for getting that investment back, right, and preparing for the next election is much bigger than making life better for citizens, which explains why the focus is on big ticket infrastructure projects. That's what they want to announce. And then legacy, right? A flyover is something you can say that that's my flyover, I've built it. That's Skydeck, I've created it.
Yeah.
But how do you say I got 500 buses more, or I improved this suburban train or metro, right?
So the scale matters.
Scale of it. Lack of institutions like BMLTA or Metropolitan Planning Committee. This is the reason why there is nobody in charge of the planning. There is no master plan for the city.
Yeah.
If we are flying, if you and I are flying in an airplane, we are flying without knowing where we are going to land and on which ocean we are going. Bengaluru city's plan is like that right now. Thankfully, we still have some institutions around that are making it tick. But in terms of 5 years, 10 years from now, there isn't a plan. This is the single biggest issue that you must explore further.
Yeah, yeah. DK Shivkumar is our the Bengaluru Development Minister. He met Prime Minister Modi recently to seek central assistance for a lot of the mega projects that I mentioned a while ago. And this is part of that brand Bengaluru campaign policy. He said Bengaluru needs better infrastructure as more people come to the city from outside. But do you think whether they are outsiders or locals, do you think they may feel that their needs are different? So in that sense, what the government or people who take care of the governance of the city feel is development is different from what people actually seek, especially, when there is water shortage or when there's floods, so, these kind of issues that people go through every day, year on year, perennial problems or recurring problems. So do you think in that sense there's a disconnect of what development should mean for a city, and should we redefine it maybe?
Huge disconnect, Nalme, I must say. There's a huge disconnect between those in power and those, on the streets, ordinary citizens like you and me, right? Their priorities are somewhat different. In fact, we talk a lot about traffic. But if you do a scientific survey in Bengaluru, traffic will not be the biggest problem for the citizens. It will be water, right? And what happened with water? If you remember, last year we had drought, no rains. This year we had water shortage in March and April. And now what do we have? Flooding. Excessive rain and flooding. So this is the climate change or climate catastrophe, you can call it. Right? Bengaluru is experiencing that. So brand Bengaluru, the biggest thing about brand Bengaluru is the wonderful salubrious climate that we have. Beautiful people, culture, assimilation, all of that. But if you have water shortages and if you have all kinds of other issues, it's not going to be shining bright as it should be. Right? So brand Bengaluru is really what the people of Bengaluru want it to be, not a few people that have certain imagination of that. So I must appreciate Honorable DCM's attempt to bring public input into the brand Bengaluru, right? Huge exercise was conducted. All of us were part of it. Thousands of people have come in and given inputs virtually, in person. Long time was spent by all the departments.
7,000 suggestions or something.
70,000.
70,000.
In so many sectors, right? But the essence of that seems to be lost, I'm sad to say. So I think that is where we are lacking in it. And if you think about it, we shouldn't need an exercise like that. What we need is my area local corporator and a mayor. Because the corporator is the person closest to me. I can work with them on regular issues. At a higher level issues, there can be a planning body and so on. Not everyone is interested in working on that. So the brand Bengaluru is a really good initiative but I think it failed to understand what the actual needs of public are and prioritizing something else. As far as asking for and people coming in, people here, I think the debate is really about what is important in the outer parts of Bengaluru versus the core parts of Bengaluru, because it's two different cities. Like we say, there is India and there is another India or a Bharat. We have we have the Bengaluru and then we have the outer Bengaluru beyond the outer ring road, right? And huge disconnect. And if you consider how much property tax comes from the outer areas, it's much higher. Therefore, the funds need to go back there. There has to be empowerment at a zonal level and a ward level. These are the ways in which we can make a big difference to our citizens and reimagine brand Bengaluru. Calling something Bengaluru doesn't mean that it has the same amenities and civic services, right? If you look at the parks map of Bengaluru, we have 1400 parks, Nalini. 1400. I doubt if any other city in India has that many parks. But if you look at the Bengaluru map and mark all these parks, you'll be seeing a lot of empty areas where there's no parks. Like in the east side, southeast, northeast, and all of that. Most of these parks are in the core areas of the Bengaluru. So you build more parks in these outer areas. That's how you build equity, inclusivity, and all of that, right? That is the imagination of brand Bengaluru that I would like to see.
Okay. Enhanced urban and suburban connectivity, integrated transport, decongested roads, and an improved standard of life for its citizens. Is that too much to ask for? These are basics for any city, and concerted and coordinated planning should be able to achieve it for Bengaluru as well. Which of the projects do you think will benefit Bengaluru the most? Do let us know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next episode of Decode Karnataka. Until then, follow The Hindu for more such stories and videos.